All right, welcome back to Cloud 9 on ACT and the Voice. This is our Let's Chat segment. And joining me on set, we have my good friend Maurice Alexander, the councillor for Siparia, West-Fyzabad. How are you, sir?
Okay, fine, sir.
All is well?
All is well, all is well.
All right, let's get cracking. All right, yeah, because we're going to open up some, wounds here. All right, so recently you did a Facebook Live.
Nice.
Highlighting some issues or discrepancies, or however you choose to phrase it, that's occurring at the social welfare office
yeah.
in Siparia.
Yeah.
The reason why, I mean, this was long in coming, so I guess this was the catalyst to get you back here after all these years, trying to get him on set. But the one thing I appreciate with you, and it's an analogy I've been using for quite some time, I had interviewed two councillors back-to-back on the flooding, UNCPNM, and I was making the point that no matter what side of the fence that you're on, we're standing on the same soil.
That's right.
And to take it a little further, we may be separated by a fence as neighbors, but not from life.
That's right.
And wherever you stand, whether it be a PNM issue or a UNC issue, you speak out.
That's right.
Because it's about people first.
People first.
So you're a brave fella.
Very much so.
All right, so, so let's go along. I would have worked, for those who don't know, I would have worked on the Social Welfare Central Board for a couple of years. And I would have seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Trust me, right? What is the ugly that is existing right now at the Siparia office?
Well, first of all, let me thank you for having me on the program here this evening, and pleasant evening to the listening and viewing public here.
And just you can send your comments. If you are having issues as well,
That's
it
right.
may not be Siparia office, it may be that office, or because social services, there are so many unanswered questions lately. It's frightening. So if you have comments or questions, send them at 360-0105 or call us at 652-4855. Go ahead, Maurice.
Yes. Well, as you said, on last week Thursday, I brought to the attention just not only of my burgesses of the Siparia West electoral district, but also to the nation, an issue really that I have been talking with since 2013. I became councillor of the electoral district of Siparia West-Fyzabad since 2013. And about a year and a half into that term of office, this is my second term, I would have been treating with a whole lot of issues, whether it be from road to drain, the typical functions of councillors. Right. And one of the burdensome issues is that of social issues. And I have been examining closely the particular issue of the Siparia Social Development Department, Siparia Social Development Department. And as I said in the live, and I make it very clear here again this evening, to the national public and particularly to those of Siparia and Fyzabad and environs, that there is a time when we have to stand up for what is right. And as you said earlier, whether you're on PNM, whether you're UNC, whether you're East Indian, African, whatever your personal or particular preferences, but when there's something that you need to stand for, which is righteousness and right, you need to do that and take that stand. And that is what I have, that is what my foundation is, that is what I've gotten into the politics with, and that is what I will leave with if that is the case.
Right.
And I have said it, that there are institutions where the public servants play more politics than the politicians. They play more politics than the politicians. Because it's amazing that over the years we have been grappling with this issue with not what is done out of Siparia Social Welfare Service, but how it is done. And I would have pointed out two particular issues. And those particular issues, one of them that really had caused me to reach to my brink is that of the gentleman by the name of Mr. Errol Francis, who had applied since 2016 for national old age pension.
And that's the guy who was in the live video.
That's who he was there with me in the live video where I showed his documents and stuff.
Right.
And what beats me is that this gentleman came to our shores in 1946 at age 5. He's now 77 years old. He attended the Muruga Primary School, or St. Mary's Primary, and he gave of his life. He's married, all right, to Trinidad and Tobago. He's married to our shores, so he gave all of his life, all of himself, I should say, all right, his youth to Trinidad.
And this document here, just is with
That's right. That's the document that refers to his travel permit, as you can see.
Travel permit.
If you look at the document itself,
got some age.
He had some
age.
Been through some wars.
Right.
And that is testament to, you know, him having come when he said that's his mom there.
He has his proof.
He has his proof of being here.
Understood.
Legally, as a matter of fact. And followed through the normal procedure in terms of applying for the citizenship, which is one of the documents I showed as well, his immigration certification for application for citizenship, and birth paper, you name it, marriage certificate, all
everything.
these documentations he had.
Right.
He had used these documentations to apply for the old age pension. And one of the documents indicated only last 2 months that he was not qualified. From 2016 to only last month, informing him, or last 2 months, I think thereabout, that he wasn't qualified. He lacked some, he lacked enough not enough citizenship,
residency status.
Yeah,
that's the term that they use,
and that's the terminology.
Right.
And here it is on me going to the office to get clarity on behalf of this gentleman. It was a nonchalant, sort of flippant way that the officer who dealt with me in particular on the gentleman's behalf on this matter. Because here it is, I was inquiring from him, if it is that this gentleman is lacking documentations to satisfy the application, then it should be explained to him what is required.
And what
is the document that is needed.
Right, understood.
And to date, they haven't done that. But allowed him, and this is what I am calling deliberate institutionalized frustration, or systems implemented to frustrate, in this case, senior citizens. This gentleman was allowed and encouraged to reapply, in other words, appeal his application.
Right? That's what is done.
And but this is where it goes. It gets a little bit different. Yeah, he was given the opportunity to appeal,
which takes a while.
But with the same documents. With the same documents, not clearing up with him what he didn't have and needed to have.
Now that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, because the result is going to be the same.
And let me speak from someone who worked on Central Board. I mean, I'm not there anymore, so shit, right? Normally, the appeal comes. No, this is what's supposed to be done. And anybody could call me and justify and correct me, right? The local board, if there's things that are missing, you have the chance to appeal. During that time of appeal, they ask you to get certain documents. So during the appeal now, if let's say you file the appeal, fine, but they tell you, listen, you need to get this, you need to get that.
That's right.
Even if you have to reapply, they will tell you what you have to get.
That's right.
So it's more like they're sending it back for processing. And during that time now, well, they'll let you know, okay, well, we got it. So I don't understand how there's an appeal but no call for the
That's right. And this is the thing that got me involved. This gentleman had visited them on 3 occasions after he received the official letter indicating to him that his application didn't meet the requirements. Right. And on those 3 occasions, him going back to find out, well, hey, what is there? What do I need to have? What is the documentations that I need to have?
So he inquired from them what they need to bring.
And upon inquiring, they only told him this one thing: we will call. We will call you.
So they didn't tell him what to bring. So up to this day, he doesn't know what he has to.
And when I had gone to them on his behalf, in his presence, the officer and all could not tell me what it is the gentleman needs. And it was at that point I then decided that I'm not going to sit here and allow this institution or individuals within the institution to hoodwink the public and really cripple the system, because clearly this is not what the institution is set up for. This is not what the processes that the Ministry of Social Development has in place. I'm quite certain of the systems that are in place, and therefore officers of the Siparia Siparia Social Services are in fact stalling deliberately and frustrating the senior citizens of Siparia.
But my question is why though? Because look here, when I worked on the Central Board, we will deal with the appeal cases, right? So if let's say that case came before us, and then let's say the gentleman is before us, and we ask him, okay, so did he tell you what he had to get? And if he said no, then that will go right back to local board.
Yeah.
because the local board supposed, I will be asked the question, okay, so did you get the document? Well, no, so I wasn't told what to bring.
That's right.
Then take it back to the local board, let them know what you have to get if you refuse to obtain the document.
That's right.
Or if for some reason they cannot, then a decision will be taken.
Well, this may be strong, you know, Sheldon, but I can tell you the reality. There are a lot of people that die while waiting for these grants, huh? And that's the fact.
But I'm getting the point. I'm getting the impression that this is the tipping point of many other issues you've had with the office.
Of course. And I mentioned in the live, and I'm not afraid to say it here, and I will want any one of them to be challenged. And I'm not afraid of being challenged with regards to what I am talking about. Because my colleague at the corporation there, Councillor Arlene Ramde, who is the councillor for Erin, right. We went in, I remember, 3 weeks ago. No, 3 weeks ago.
Yes. Okay, right.
Yes, both of us went in to the social welfare department regarding a woman applying for the bereavement grant. That's the funeral assistant.
Funeral assistant, yeah.
And it was amazing that the officer didn't know who we were. She assumed that we were just persons sitting in there as relatives. No, well, I mean, interestingly, that probably may have been a new officer. But when we sat there with the office, with the applicant, here it is, the applicant, you know, was pleading for the case and, you know, presented all the documentations. Right. And we saw with our own eyes and heard with our own ears the officer deliberately frustrating that applicant.
So you go back now to customer service?
Customer service across the board. What did the officer do? The officer sent the applicant to the NIS office. The typical process to see if it is the person, the applicant had made any NIS contributions and that kind of stuff. But you had gone to the NIS office without even giving the letter or the form from social welfare that goes to NIS office. Right. Okay? And only upon the applicant coming back to the office, then the officer in the presence of us said, well, you know, oh, I forgot to give you this form. No, it was there and then again another breaking point that we announced who we were. No relation to the lady, but was there standing in and to understand what goes on. I went on numerous occasions as person's husband, as person's son, as their boyfriend, as somebody that just shacking up with them. Again, I do these covert operations to understand what goes on, and I can tell you, I stand on facts. Of course, I stand on the facts that what has been going on in the Siparia Social Welfare Office needs to stop. It needs to be highlighted. It needs to come to the forefront. And I know for a fact. And again, let me just make mention quickly that, you know, there are persons who will politicize this matter. This has nothing to do with UNC. It has nothing to do with PNM. But the way in which public servants sometimes how they do things, people then take it and you will hear the politics in it. That's Rowley and it is PNM and it is UNC and it is this. The Member of Parliament of Siparia is the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa, and this matter has, former Prime Minister, this matter has been going on under the last government. And again, these things, it's a trend in Siparia. It is a trend in Siparia. And therefore, I will continue to highlight the issues. I will continue to bring it to the fore and trust that the people of this country and by extension the ministries and the ministers that are in charge at this time will treat with these issues and get deep to the point of it. Have you had any conversations with the line minister about it? That's right. I would say about a couple months ago, earlier this year, I would have had discussions with the minister, sharing with us some of the little incidents and some of the issues that are circling around the Siparia Social Service. And in fact, she has been making some strides in terms of trying to treat with those issues. But I want to tell you, and you know, it is important that while I was sitting there preparing to come on set, I know the saying when you talk about grace and all that kind of, the wheat and tears must be grown together. But let me tell you something, until the day of harvest, this is a time to root out the wheat. The tears, sorry. This is a time to take out the tears, because clearly their persons are planted into the lengths and breadth of it. Sometimes these tears can stunt your growth. Of course, all right. But I tell people clearly, tell them without a shadow of doubt and without favor and contradiction, I can discern them. I can discern them. And the thing is, you know, and again, and that's the thing, because some might say, you know, boy, Maurice, boy, you know, it made the ministry look bad. Oh, no. Boy, Maurice, boy. And then somebody opposite will say, oh, it's because
Mrs. Kalapasad, so either side of the fence, you're going to get those who would say,
and what I say to
you
them,
should go there.
My responsibility as a local representative, the minister cannot know everything. The Prime Minister cannot know everything. The opposition leader cannot know anything. The MP cannot know anything. We as councillors and all, we depend on the people on the ground to give us that information. And it is my responsibility to share that information with the minister, share that with the ministry, because for all you know, and I can tell you, with the policies and the systems that are put in place, since the government has come into, well, since the PNM has come into government, there have been systems implemented to clean up and to treat with the issues that have been plaguing this ministry. And I'm telling you, with some of these policies and systems that I am aware of that really is implemented or developed to clean up and really create that type of transparency in the ministry, there are persons who are in the ministry that really want this thing to remain the way in which it was, and to stalemate the whole process. All right? And to oppress, that is what it is.
No,
because let me just say, sorry to cut you, but you would hear one of that same officer who I spoke with, when it is he went through with me, trying to justify the means test with the gentleman. Right. You know, I allowed him to explain himself as to how and why they had reached to this point, and why to date the gentleman doesn't have the information that he requires, but still was allowed to reapply with the same documents. He said to me,
still trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, he said to me, well, hey, this is not my fault, and all the government put this in place. And immediately,
wow, you realize,
that sent the signal home to me as to what is happening. He's a senior officer in that department. He's a senior officer there, and that tells me the stench of what goes on there in that office in Siparia. It's only fair to come to the conclusion that the other aspects and facets of that of Siparia office does the same thing. Hundreds of persons goes through that office. For the past 2 years, 3 years thereabout, you hear people complain of the processes, the frustration that they go through. They have 10 things that they need to bring, all right? You don't give them an entire form saying what the requirements are. Every time they go back, and the 10 times they get information, bring this today, bring that tomorrow, bring the other tomorrow. These are people, children, that are hearing impaired, some of them visually impaired, some of them psychologically imbalanced.
Well, I want to ask you a question, and I mean, because I know you and Councillor Aramdeen they were there at one point in time, right? And he, of course, is UNC Councillor? No,
that's Arlene Ramde.
Oh, Arlene Ramde.
Yes,
sorry,
Councillor for hearing.
My apologies. So, another name there, my apologies. Would you say that there are those who are politicking based on who is the MP for the area? No,
I would not even come to that conclusion, and, I stand on that categorically, because, as I said, this matter has been plaguing the people of Siparia, West-Fyzabad, Santa Flora, Palaseco, and environs, Sign Village, since 2013. Since I came in, the UNC was in government. The member of parliament was the prime minister. And still, even up on that time, you had those issues. Dr. Ramadasi, who is now the chairman of the corporation in Siparia, who was the minister of social development, can attest to those things, even under his stewardship.
So this is a systematic problem.
It is a systematic thing that is. I mean, I may not be able to talk for what happens in the other regions, but I can specifically speak to what's happening in Siparia, and therefore I'm saying, Sheldon, I will leave no stone unturned. Let the ministry come to make me to bring it to bear that I was wrong. All right, I have no issue with that, but I can tell you, I am sure that I'm not wrong, because given this one particular issue, I would love to get answers on that.
And that's the thing, though. And if it's a situation whereby this has been going on for, well, clearly decades, if you want to call it that, we can't use the argument that we're overworked or overwhelmed or we're short-staffed or, you know, the public is unreasonable, because at the end of the day, it's not a yesterday issue.
That's right.
It's been going on for several years, and there are things. I mean, I would have spent about a day or two there, and again, I would have been, you know, privy to the good. Not the bad or the ugly. You know, when I went to visit many years ago. So, but again, I've been hearing through the pipeline. This, you know, when you brought it on live, I was like, need to bring it here live to talk about it.
I just want to touch too on something that you made mention to me. I remember I think it was sometime last month or earlier last month, and you used the analogy of palliative care. I think it was, that when we had that conversation. And you know, that sunk into my spirit, because here it is, I said it in the live as well. I'm not advocating that for everybody that walks through the doors in Siparia, social welfare department, I'm not advocating that everybody that applies for a grant or applies for some thing, they ought to get it or they must get it, as the case may be, because they are genuine cases and they are also make-believe cases.
Of course,
all
there
right?
are many make-believe cases.
That's right.
There are many.
But I am saying, even if I have this issue genuinely, but I may not be, but I may not, you know, I may not I cannot apply for it, I can't get it. But you tell me no with a certain type of love, a certain type of spirit, a certain type of understanding and humility as well. I will understand that, you know. I'll take that.
It's how you speak to people.
It's how.
Soft to know.
Yeah. I'm going to die, but oh gosh, let me go in peace now. And with you can help me go in peace.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem.
You don't get that in Siparia. As I said, that particular issue, even with the young lady whose mom passed away, and she had to go through that drama of getting that grant for the burial assistant grant. And it was amazing that the council of the area of whom that young lady resided in the electoral district, she had to contact the Port of Spain office, the Port of Spain office, to treat with that matter. Totally unacceptable.
Wow. So we're going to try and conclude this show in 8 minutes. I just talk plenty, he just talk plenty. So, right, yeah, so let it go. So we're going to just skip a little bit from, because again, we have the issues with the social welfare division in Siparia, but that same manner in which we deal with the public in terms of our response, in terms of, you know, customer care, customer service, you've been experiencing that as a councillor in other areas and other ministries as well.
Of course.
And this is disturbing.
This is disturbing.
Tell us exactly what you
have the other ministries, and I mean go to each one of them, but Ministry of Community Development, Ministry of Local Government itself, Ministry of Works and Transport. Again, these issues of persons literally stalling the process and stalling the wheels of development and progress through the ministries. The government's policies and principles that they will want to unfold and unroll in the, to benefit the people. All right? And that is why I have been one who I will not hold my tongue on it. I will treat with it accordingly in terms of having, if I have to write communication, if I have to communicate to the necessary ministers on the matter, bringing it to their attention, because that's my responsibility, as well as bringing it first and foremost to the people of who I represent. Because I think it's important that they understand, because you will hear from time to time, as I mentioned earlier, people then come down on the government, come down on the councillors, come down on the poor prime minister. I mean, every word now is Rowley, every word now is the PNM, and therefore you keep saying to yourself, it's high time that we bring the issues to bear, that we have to take that responsibility, those of us who are charged, whether a public servant or whether a politician, pastor or priest. We have a responsibility, a job to get it done. Discipline, tolerance and production, these are our watchwords, our motto. Listen, we ought to really stick to this and really bring that type of success and development that our country need.
Let me go a little deeper here, and I wish you had more time, but you know, I'll get you back into this somehow, don't worry, I'll find another catalyst. You mentioned again, and we've heard it before, whether on the UNCPNM you have this culture, you have this seeping poison that seems to be emanating in the body of public service. Is it more? Is it that you think that people just, we don't care anymore? Because again, no matter what party in power, we're having this problem. Could it be more than just, as we said, it's not about a UNC or PNM, but we just, because you interact with a lot of people on a different level, levels.
That's right.
Do we truly love Trinidad and Tobago based on what you see? Because to me, it is beyond political lines. No?
Yes, and that's a question that I ask myself. I mean, I'm not least of the apostles to probably pontificate over it. But I believe that clearly we have lost touch with who we are and why we are here. We are placed into this nation. And we have a responsibility. And if we want to see something happen, we need to get on board and make this thing happen for us as positive as we would want it to, just not only for ourselves who are alive, but even for generations to come. And you hear governments and persons in leadership positions who often tell you about, you know, the culture of the country, the culture. But then we need to examine, there's a need for us to pause at this time and examine our culture and how are we, what role are we playing through our culture that is to really benefit us positively, because you are getting that across the board. Now, just quickly, you would be aware of the rollout of local government reform and the intention of the government to implement such systems to really bring that kind of relief to the people systematically. But you know, I keep saying that if with what exists now, we know there are problems and teething issues with it, what exists now. But if when reform comes and that system is implemented, if our minds are not transformed and we are not really ready to get that wheel turning, then the reform is going to come with minds and mindsets that are really archaic and really believe in the past and that kind of thing. We will go nowhere, but we have a good system, but nowhere we are going.
I think the mind of the people, we've become, and I've said this time and time again, we've become a very bitter people. We've become full of hate, envy. You know, it does, and I always make this point that we have such a beautiful example of what a rainbow really is supposed to be. Not the other rainbow, eh? Not the other rainbow, right?
Get that clear.
Get very clear. Right? Celebration tomorrow we had, and we learn to live in harmony.
That's
as
right.
God continues to bless us. But again, and it starts at the head as well. We have a responsibility. From the head goes straight down. I'm not just head of government, head of the home, head of, you know, and we need to get back to that place of community.
Yes.
So as a council on the ground, as we kind of wrap things up this evening, where does it begin? Where does the healing really begin? Because it again, it's like a poison right now, and it's like a runaway poison. I think
a lot of it has to begin with us. I think we have to look individually. I know from time to time you hear people say it starts in the home, it starts in the home, but I sometimes analyze that sometimes there are people who have no home. Where are they? What home? The home has a part to play, yes, and those who are in the home has a part to play. But I think a lot has to do with our internal, individual introspection, looking inward as to who we are, what is our contribution, and how do we intend to contribute to make the country, and by extension ourselves and lives, a better person, a better place, not for just only ourselves, but for the generation to come and our children.
Right. Well, you know what, we have to close, but this said, you know, the people perish for lack of wisdom. And we need to speak out.
That's right.
Evil men, good men do nothing. And someone just sent a comment here as well. Keep up the good work in your community, sir. You are selfless, one of a kind, putting people, you know, and of course, accountability. So,
yes.
Mr. Alexander.
Thank you very much.
So Maurice Alexander.
Blessing.
Thank you very much,
Pleasure
sir. I'm sure we have more time.
Yes.
When you raise the next hornet's nest, I would I'll call you again, all right? This has been, I think, here about us just about all the time. Right? Somebody said it must begin with individuals. That is true. Must each take a stand. If every councillor will take a stand against injustice, whether it is a UNC or PNM, whoever is in power, trust me, things will change. That is the council. It's not just about roads and drains. It's about being a voice for the people.
Yes.
And that is key. All right? Take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you.
Yo.